Put that in the video. Hey everyone, Ryan Young, Kama Jiu-Jitsu, and I hope you're doing well. Hey, I just got back from a pretty cool trip. Yeah, Dave and I and Andres Sepulveda, he joined us over at Guantanamo Bay. So here's what happened. Dakota and Zach, who run the program over there right now, had messaged us on one of our YouTube videos. They responded, and I guess the conversation came up that they're soldiers in Guantanamo Bay, where they have no access to a black belt on a daily basis. So a black belt up in Jacksonville goes and visits them, or is set up to visit them once or twice a year. I'm not sure how often. And it's easy because Jacksonville has a direct flight to Guantanamo Bay. So I thought, hey, since you don't have a regular black belt there, in fact the blue belt is the highest they've got there right now. I mean, it's constantly changing. It's a rotating group. I said, how about Dave and I just come and swing by and teach you guys? He says, how much? Nothing. You know, we'll get ourselves over there. Don't worry about paying for anything. We'll just come and teach you. It's what we want to do. It's a way that we can use to give back. What is Guantanamo Bay, Cuba? So Guantanamo Bay is a part of the island of Cuba that the U.S. leases from Cuba. How that lease came to be, I don't know. I don't know if it's before Castro's time or during Castro's time. I'm not exactly sure, but from what I understand, the lease is like $50 a year. It's cheap. Guantanamo Bay that the U.S. leases covers two parts. So one part of it is the Naval Air Station, Guantanamo, NAS Guantanamo. And that side of it has about 20,000 people that live there, residents of the base. They are naval enlisted officers. They also have Marines there. They have Army. They have some Air Force and Coast Guard. Basically, all branches are there, but it's primarily a naval base. And it is what they call a hot zone because there is a DMZ, a demilitarized zone, because I guess we haven't ended our hostilities with Cuba. So there was one ridge that they had shown us that just on the other side of the ridge is Cuba. What they expect was that either a banana rat, which is their version of like a possum, a banana rat or an iguana might have walked on top of a landmine, which was in the DMZ, and blew up. And as a result of blowing up, might have caught fire. And what happened was they had a wildfire that went across the ridge of the mountain. And the ridge of the mountain is so covered with landmines that mines were blowing up. Boom, fire, boom. And they were going for at least a couple of days while the fire was raging. It's just kind of crazy, huh? The Cubans and the Americans, they kind of stick to themselves, but it is a hot zone. So I guess there is a potential where fighting can break out. Not likely to happen, but there is a potential. So as a result, I think they can hazard pay over there. Now, that's one side of it. The other side of it is JTF Guantanamo, which I understand stands for Joint Task Force Guantanamo, and that is the prison. That is where everybody's talking about closing down Guantanamo. I think that is the part that they're talking about, the prison. And most of the prison sections, from what I remember, are closed. In fact, they're so closed that there's vegetation growing all over the place in there. And from what I was told, there are only 40 prisoners left in there. They're high-value prisoners. Maybe they're terrorists, I don't know. They wouldn't let us know who they are, and they wouldn't let us go look in. As much as I tried to weasel my way in there, it didn't happen. I did get us a tour, though. That was the thing. They weren't planning to give us a tour, but I said, hey, come on, I got to have a tour there. And I said, I want to see who's in there. No. Can't take you to see who's in there, but we can take you to that side of it. So we have to get passes and all that kind of stuff to go. And they took us there, and they ended up taking us to lunch. So Zach, one of the sailors there, put us on his meal card, and we got to eat there in the mess hall. And I don't remember what it was called, but it's the main one. But it's a tent. So imagine a big old tent, but it looks like a building when you're in it. I mean, it's that temperature controlled, and food was good. And what happened was they are building a brand new state-of-the-art mess hall. And it's designed to serve, I guess, 2,500 soldiers 3 meals a day. And it was a badass kitchen. It was so what happened was the chief petty officer who runs the kitchen happened to see us walking out, and Zach had pointed out, oh, that's going to be our new mess hall. And the chief said, meet me up there. I'll take you guys for a tour. And everybody there is just so nice. I didn't come across a single rude person there. Maybe there are, and I just haven't come around them. But everybody was just so nice there. You feel completely safe there. There's never any trouble. Everybody says, sir, yes, sir, how you doing, sir? Thank you, sir. It's very polite. And that's one of the things that I really like about being around our military folks, because they just have a level of decorum that many of us civilians don't have. Every night we were training, we had at least 6 to 10 MPs that would be in the class. The MPs were Army. They were Army reservists that they kind of rotate around the country during various states, and they'll grab them and send them in, and they'll go in, I want to say, for 8 or 9 month deployments. Not really long. Some of them don't get to stay in nice places. One of them, they stayed in a room that had 5 of them, and they were all separated by curtains. It was very tiny. Maybe this mat that I'm sitting on, this tatami mat, is about 2 feet by 6 feet. No, 3 feet by 6 feet, and their space wasn't that much bigger than that. Kind of sucks. But I guess when you're a lower level enlisted person and you're in the reserves, then you kind of just get what you get. If you're a family member, if you have a family there, then we did go and we had dinner twice over at one of the sailors' houses, and it was a beautiful home. Modest home, but it was nice. Nicer than a lot of other people's homes that I've seen. And the base is it's self-enclosed, so there's nothing really outside of the base that you can go to. So kids go to school there. They have an elementary, a middle, and a high school there. Everybody has their various jobs there. They have a charter airline that was flying back and forth, but from what I understand, their service was so horrible that they didn't get their contract renewed. So I don't know if they're going to create a new contract, another vendor, so you can actually fly and pay. And I think it was probably about $650 or $700 round trip. It wasn't cheap. They put you on a small jet. I don't know, it might have been a Gulfstream or something. It might have held maybe 20 people. It wasn't a very big jet. That would be the way to get in and out if you don't want to fly on the standby space available basis. By the way, funny thing is, we tried to get out on Friday, and on Friday afternoon, we didn't get out.
So today is June 14th, and we did not get on our standby flight to leave Guantanamo Bay to head back to Jacksonville, Florida. And the flights go out typically Tuesdays and Fridays. Well, it doesn't look like we can get on one anytime soon because school's getting out and a lot of people are going to be leaving the island to go back home.
So they told us, here are your options. Monday you can fly on a C-12, which is a 10-seater, to Jamaica. They have 4 seats available.
So how do you make a good situation out of a bad one? I don't know, I guess we go train more Jiu-Jitsu. What is that?
We train more Jiu-Jitsu.
I'm stuck in Gitmo again.
Maybe we get out on Monday, and we go to Jamaica, and then train more Jiu-Jitsu.
Tuesday would be a space available flight to Norfolk, Virginia, but we wouldn't get on because the school is getting out. Wednesday, they didn't tell us about the Wednesday. We actually found out from our barber. The barber, we all went to get haircuts over there. You see my high and tight here, huh? So, yeah, that was done in Guantanamo Bay. So the Jamaican barber happens to know Andres, and Andres happened to talk to him, told him our situation, and he said, well, there's a space available flight on a 737 that's going to Jamaica on Wednesday. So we thought, okay, for sure we can go to Jamaica. We wanted to end up in the U.S., and Thursday might have been in Norfolk, Virginia, and Friday was Jacksonville, Florida, which is where we ended up flying in from. For me, it didn't matter where I went, as long as I get onto U.S. soil, I can get home. But it turns out Jamaica has a pretty good sized airport, and American, Delta, and JetBlue are American airlines that fly out of Guantanamo. So I was out of Jamaica. It's funny when you hear that Jamaican accent on TV and stuff, and when you go to Guantanamo, you hear it all the time because and here's a funny thing too. I don't know if it's funny or not, but it's just I thought it was kind of funny. A lot of the workers there that do the barbers, that work at the cashiers at the Navy Exchange or work as ferry drivers, they are contract workers from the Philippines and from Jamaica. They come in on a contract. It's basically a work visa, and they work for anywhere from 75 cents an hour to maybe $1.25 an hour. So they work for next to nothing. But apparently it's a lot of money for them. And Andres was telling us that the ferry driver was there when he was there back in 2014, and he was still there. So I guess it's a good gig if you come from a country where maybe finding a job like that might be difficult. And one of the firemen who was from Jamaica was telling us how, we told him, let's say your wife or girlfriend has a baby, is pregnant on Guantanamo Bay. When the baby's born, that's an American citizen. He says, yeah, so what they do is they ship you back to Jamaica. They don't let you have the baby in Guantanamo. I guess that's a way to ensure that they don't end up having any anchor babies. So he was saying, yeah, they would ship his wife back. They can't get citizenship. I don't think there is a path for them to get citizenship into the U.S. So yeah, so they have these contract workers that are making pennies. And I just think to myself, how do they live? But they have all their expenses taken care of. Their housing is taken care of. I guess they're fed as well. So they don't need to. They can save all the money that they make. And if they work in a tipped position, then they make even more money. Like if you're a barber, if you're a waitress, something like that. Then when you go back to Jamaica, then your money is worth a whole lot more. And the exchange rate is like $126 to $1 US. I don't know exactly what that buys because when I got there, I didn't leave the airport. And so anyway, so you see all these people. You're surrounded by people now who speak because they're Jamaicans, and it's kind of a funny thing. It's kind of fun to listen to. So anyway, another thing too is when you fly into the airport, you fly in on the leeward side, if I'm not mistaken. That's where the terminal is, and then you have to get on a ferry, which takes about 20 minutes over to the windward side, which is where the base is, where the actual base that you go to is. I'm not one who likes boats. I was good on the boat. I just couldn't really talk to anyone because if I do, you're going to distract me, and then when you're distracting me, then I'm doing this, right? But if you're not distracting me and I'm looking out and they say, look at the horizon, right? And then, you see the horizon, the boat's moving, but the horizon doesn't move. So, that way, I guess that's how your body can kind of acclimate to the motion. So on one of my ferry rides, a young man in the Navy sees me. I sit down, I'm looking out over the horizon, and he's sitting right over there, right by where the camera is, and he comes and he walks and he sits right next to me. And he looks at me and he goes, how you doing? I said, I'm good. How are you? And then he says, I'm so-and-so. I'm like, oh, good to meet you. And I'm thinking, why are you coming to sit right next to me? Because, we're just sitting on a ferry. And he says, I've seen your videos. So I thought, that's pretty cool, right? The funny thing is, we have, by the time you're watching this, about 8,000 subscribers. Not that many. But you don't know how many times I get stopped and somebody from you all come and shake my hand and tell me, I watch your videos. And I'm like, that's cool. So I got to tell you this story. It's pretty funny. So we're talking, right? And I said, why didn't I see you on the mat? Because that was when we were leaving. He says, well, I work shift work at the hospital on the base side. And then I have to, and he was a Marine. No, he was a Navy sailor, corpsman. And he says, then I have to go over to the other side, the Joint Task Force side, every other week and work there. So unfortunately, his schedule didn't work with our being there the entire week. He was out the entire week. So I'm like, oh man, that's a bummer. I go, well, that's okay. We left them with a lot of stuff that you can work on. So, just go ahead and ask Dakota and Zach, and they'll kind of brush you up. Andres, right, who was also with us. Andres is a retired Master Sergeant, airborne. He was an airborne MP and a Ranger. He was Ranger certified or Ranger designated, one of the two. Can't remember what it's called, but he had gone through and passed Ranger school. Anyway, he leans over, and he introduces himself to the young man. And then I said, oh, now you only got to meet Professor Dave. And I go, and then Dave's just kind of looking our way, and I just tell the guy, I go, why don't you go over and say hi to Dave? And he goes, I'm kind of nervous. And I'm like, don't be. So Dave, most easygoing guy ever, walks over and shakes his hand, and the guy's like, wow, can I take a picture? So we had to get a picture, on the boat, so we're kind of rocking and taking a picture. So that was actually a very, very good experience. The people that we met, they were from all over the country. The people are just so great, and it's such a good experience, and it would be something that I would like to do twice a year if I knew how I could get off the island for sure. That's the one drawback to going to Guantanamo. It's a beautiful place. The people are awesome. The jiu-jitsu is fun over there. There's actually stuff to do if you like nature. You can hike. There are lots of places to hike. scuba diving, all that kind of stuff. The beaches there are beautiful. We went to only one of the beaches. If we had some snorkeling gear, we could have gone fishing. There's certain species that you can fish and certain ones you cannot. Conch is a very popular one to catch. Also, squid. The beaches there, there wasn't really any sand. I guess there was sand, but it was kind of a dark sand. It was hot and it's rocky. It wasn't black like Kalapana on the Big Island, but it was kind of a dark green. But it was hot, so it absorbed the heat. So it was pretty rough walking on it. And then to get off of that, you got to walk onto rocks, which didn't feel good either. But once you got to the water was warm. Not quite as warm as, say, summer at South Beach, which is really warm. It's like standing in bath water. It's so warm. But Guantanamo was nice. It was nicer than getting in Hawaii water, which is also pretty nice. The thing is, over there, they have protected species. So banana rats are a nuisance, but iguanas are not. Iguanas are protected. If you run over an iguana and they figure that it's intentional, they will fine you $10,000. Those things, they come around and people feed them. And because they feed them, they kind of hang out. Like in our carport, there was one that we ended up calling Iggy.
That's not 5 foot.
Oh, well, his tail's cut off.
You were so sure it was 5
Well,
feet.
because his tail's cut off. He's got the body of a 5-footer. His tail's cut off. Look, it's shortened.
Oh, it's growing back.
It is, but it's shortened. From head to tail, those are usually about 5 feet.
Hey, look up by me. I don't like kissing makeup. Go away.
Hey, do me a favor and open up the side door, Kayla?
Boy.
Kayla, open up the side door, man.
Side door? Alright.
Going further, babe.
His body was about this long and he was about that thick. He was about 3 foot long, but he had very little tail, which leads me to believe that he might have gotten it cut off or bitten off or something by another iguana. I don't know.
Yeah.
He knows that's the gate.
You push him that way. When he gets closer again, I'll push him this way.
There you go. Keep going. Oh.
Oh, man, he hit hard.
He's like, man, I'm trapped.
He goes, I didn't see that.
You'll come back.
Yeah, he got through over
You'll be
here.
all right.
Hey, buddy.
And it's a funny thing too, you think they're like a dog, you throw them food that they'll go chase the food. No, you throw the food, he turns on and runs toward you. And you just see him kind of, and he's chasing you. You're like, whoa, and you kind of, because you can't hurt him. If you do, then you're in big trouble. You kind of just keep your distance from him. What else do you have going on? Oh, speed limit there, 30 miles an hour. You cannot go faster than 30 miles an hour over there. Let's say you're a sailor and you're going to be stationed in Guantanamo. I'd probably leave my car. Well, no, you might need a car. But the thing is, 30 miles an hour with all the salt air, you'll ruin your car. Your car will never be able to get up to speed to run at a good temperature. So somebody was telling me, yeah, the cars get kind of wrecked over there in pretty short order.
That hurts him, go watch.
That's a nice lens.
Multifaceted.
Yeah.
Not only can I do jiu-jitsu, I can change tires.
How you doing? Good. Even Dirty Dozen members change tires too.
Such crap.
So don't get too cocky, y'all. Just because you have a 4th degree black belt and it's from Hicks and Gracie, you're not too big and too good to do this, all right? How many combat jiu-jitsu people does it take to open or undo? 1 to do the work and 3 to watch.
2, 3.
Off with the old, on with the new.
One of the things one of the places that we spent a lot of time at was the Navy Exchange, because really that's the only store there. I mean, they have a little mini mart, like a 7-Eleven type place, which has a lot of everything in it, a little of everything in it, excuse me. The Navy Exchange has a lot of it. Imagine like a Kohl's with maybe like a Target, but not quite as big, but they got all kind of stuff in there. So we were there grocery shopping every day. And that's another thing too. If you stay there, we were able to stay in these townhouses, these 2-bedroom townhouses with a full kitchen and everything. It was a great place to stay. And they're very needed. And the reason is because the fast food there sucks. They've got Subway. They've got Pizza Hut. They have one other place that's kind of a Chipotle knockoff. They had a Jamaican restaurant that I think only opens on weekends, and they forgot to take us there, so we didn't know about it until it was too late. I think I found out about it Sunday. So we never got to go. Oh, and they have the place where they have the school. It's basically a state-of-the-art fitness facility. Imagine an LA Fitness with more weights, with a smaller yoga room, because military folk aren't into that aerobic stuff, right? They don't do Thai boxing. They don't do Taibo. They don't do that kind of stuff. But they do have boxing equipment. They have 2 gyms, where the jiu-jitsu guys are on one gym, half of one gym. They have a volleyball court. They've got everything. It's a beautiful facility. And I'm glad that our taxpayers are paying for that for them, because they deserve it. The people that were training at the GTMO BJJ Club, which is what they're called. These are people that come from different walks of life. Some of them have done jiu-jitsu prior. In fact, most of them have. A lot of them started their jiu-jitsu there. It's kind of I've never had an experience really where I'm in one place training and they're all together, but they're not.
So how are you liking it?
Good.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it. It's I keep getting messages from everybody that are just like, when are they? How long are they gonna be here? And it's just like, well, they're supposed to leave tomorrow. Okay, well, I gotta make it.
One of the heads of the club was from Missouri, and these are rotating heads. So what happens is as they leave and go somewhere else, then somebody else gets voted to head the club. They do have a black belt they're affiliated under. They just got that going. So hopefully he'll be able to spend a lot of time with them. I doubt it though. I mean, maybe once a year, if they're lucky, maybe twice. Everybody you speak to, they're from a different part of the country, and they train at a different school. So you don't really have a style of jiu-jitsu there. Although Dakota, who runs it, he has fully bought into the self-defense style, the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu style. Funny story is the first time he and I trained, I was working to pass his guard, and he went inverted on me, and I slapped him in the forehead. I'm like, nope. And he's just like this, like kind of flustered, like, what do I do? Nobody's ever done that to me. And I'm like, nope. And so finally he turned out, and it's a story. I only bring it up because he brought it up on one of our Facebook pages, and it's a funny experience that he had. It's funny because when you have these types of experiences, just a singular experience can stick with you for the rest of your life. So for instance, there were 2 that I can think of right offhand with Grandmaster Helson that I had. One of them had to do with playing half guard, and he chewed me out for doing that. And one was following, when I'm playing guard and they stand up, and me following up with him to try to keep a choke, and I got yelled at for that too. There was one that I had with Grandmaster Rickson when I was at his Pico Boulevard Academy, where he was trying to show us how to be based, because base is everything to him, how to be based in somebody's guard when you're standing up with no hands. And I just remember him saying, it's so easy, and we're all falling down, boom, 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 everybody's getting sweat. And he goes, what? How come you can't understand it? He was getting frustrated, visibly frustrated. That, and once I was taking a private with him years ago, and he was trying to show me how to do the arm bar, and he kept saying, okay, do it like me. So I tried to do it, or I thought I did what he was telling me, and he goes, no, my friend, that's wrong, do again. So probably went 10 times and 30-minute private, and he was frustrated, I was frustrated. It didn't get done, but so I, little things like that you remember years and years later. So hopefully with Dakota, he will remember that particular experience. The thing is that you had Dave, you had me, and you had Andres over there. Andres is like a second purple. He's very well versed in the self-defense side because he was a level 3 instructor in the Army, combatives instructor. So he knows all the stuff, the guns, the handcuffs, the knives, all that kind of stuff, and he trains live with them, and then he then blends that with gunfire too. Everybody had different experiences from each of us over there to help them, and I noticed that the groups would kind of rotate in, so they'd spend some time with Andres, some with Dave, some with me, and it wasn't really where we'd say, okay, rotate. It wasn't anything like that. It was just kind of a natural flow, and that happened over the course of the week. And I got to get to know a lot of people, got to make a lot of new friends. My best friends are jiu-jitsu people. I guess there's nothing like making a really good friend with someone who in one moment is trying to choke the crap out of you, another moment trying to break your arm, and another moment you're trying to do that to him. It's kind of a weird thing, for people who I know who have been both military in combat as well as being in jiu-jitsu. They say they're very similar feelings of brotherhood and wanting to help your buddy. Like I said, I've met all these people with all different instructors, some with no instructors, where the only people that taught them anything were the blue belts that are currently in the club. Just having us go there to kind of share our knowledge, because a lot of them, you know, in fact, one of them, I remember training with him, and he said, and another one trained with Dave, and after they were done, they said, wow, I've never rolled with a black belt before. And I'm thinking, really? You know, even at your school? You know, because some of them came from the school. I'm like, yeah, I've never rolled with a black belt. And, you know, if that's what makes their day, then I'll do that all day. You know, I was lucky. You know, they're only rolling with me. I mean, you know, who am I, right? But, you know, when I was training, I got to roll with Grandmaster Helsa, Grandmaster Rickson, Master Hoyce, Master Horian, Professor Rodrigo Gracie. So I've trained with them, you know, as far as Gracie family members, as well as Hadra Machado. And that's something that most people will never, ever get to experience. And that's something that I got to experience. So it just seems kind of odd when people are kind of starstruck when they roll with Professor Dave. You know, granted, Dave is, you know, he is a Dirty Dozen member. He is Dave Kama, but he's not Rickson Gracie, if that makes any sense. It just kind of goes to show what type of people we have in jiu-jitsu. They're so nice, and they're grateful, especially the military ones. And you know, and the feeling is mutual as far as, you know, who, you know, me being grateful for them, you know, signing on the dotted line to defend their country, and you know, everything up and including up to and including their own lives. And you know, a lot of them, they do it for college, they do it for extra money maybe, or they do it to get out of their current lifestyle. But still, at the end of the day, they could be sent to a hot zone, they could be sent to a war zone, and they could come back in a coffin, or they could come back seriously injured. The fact that they've done that, and you know, to defend the rest of us, it makes me have those feelings where I want to go and train with them, and I want to go and help them, and just do it, you know, just because I have the time and I have the means to do it, so I go and do it. You know, we always honor our military and our veterans here. We have several of them in either campus, both in our Southern California and our Flower Mound, Texas campus. If we can help a whole bunch of them, a whole bunch of you, if you're watching and you're active duty or reserve or veteran, then we'd like to help you any way we can. So this was one way that we could. And we flew in on Tuesday, and we were set to leave on Friday. So we were there to train Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday evenings. Well, it turns out that when you fly as a civilian to Guantanamo Bay, you are not really of any priority to get on or off the island. If you're on the island, then depending on the time of year or the situation, then good luck getting off the island, which is what happened to us. Friday, we went to catch our flight back to Jacksonville, but if any of you have ever ridden commercial with relatives that work at the airline, let's say you're flying on leisure. If you are an employee, you're what we call a D1. If you're, say, an immediate family member, say wife or child maybe, then you're a D2. If you're on a buddy pass, or maybe you're a grandparent or some other more distant relative than the immediate family, then you're a D3. Well, our equivalent to flying on what they call a space available aircraft, which was a 737. Our level was basically the equal to a D7, which does not exist in commercial airlines, but it does on military. So suffice to say, we were trying to get back to Jacksonville. They had a full flight, and we did not get on. Then they told us that Friday, kids got out of school. So that means that everybody who's there wants to go off on summer break. Also, the teachers who teach at the schools in Guantanamo Bay, most of them don't live in Guantanamo Bay full time when school's not in session. They live back in the States, so they want to get off as well. So they said the chance of us getting out of town on the Tuesday, space available to Norfolk, or the Thursday back to Jacksonville, or Friday back to Jacksonville, slim to none. So we ended up getting on a 10-seater plane to Jamaica, of all places. Yeah, man.
So now we just wait for about an hour or so to check in for our flight. It's a standby flight, also known as a Space A flight. So Dave and I are here. Time to go home soon.
Space means space available.
Space available.
8 days, really,
Yeah.
but
Hopefully they have some seats available, which
up to 14.
Andres over there, he checked for us and said that there's a lot.
In fact, we got on with 2 firefighters that were Jamaican contract workers working for the fire department on Guantanamo Bay, and they were going back home. So we got to hear a lot of their dialect, which is pretty fun to listen to. So the 2 of them plus the 4 crew members plus the 4 of us, the plane was full. It was so full, they couldn't take our luggage. So we flew to Jamaica with barely anything. We still had no flight home from Jamaica to Dallas, Fort Worth for me, because we didn't know if we were going to get on the plane in the first place. We didn't know we were getting on until we got on. And once we got on, we had to go through customs in Jamaica, and then I had to scramble to find a flight. So I got myself back to DFW. Dave and his wife Connie went ahead and stayed put in Jamaica to kind of hang out a little bit and get the sights there. I wanted to get back home, so that's what I did. I ended up getting back home at 1 in the morning. I guess you could say we're stuck on the island, but there are worse places to be stuck. And at the end of the day, we ended up staying there an entire week. We trained 6 days a week there, anywhere from 3 to 4 hours. And that kind of got me thinking. It was such a great time. The only problem with Guantanamo is getting off of Guantanamo. You can't schedule your trip out. You're there, and then you're kind of at the whim of the U.S. military on whether or not you're going to get off on time. So if it were not for that uncertainty, it would be a good place to go hang out and train and have some fun. So here's the idea. Since we did that this summer, and it was such a nice experience for us, getting to train and relax and kind of kick back and get to meet a bunch of new people, my thought was, what about if in 2019, in the summer of 2019, we do something like that again? Except this time, we head to another exotic location, a tropical location, perhaps somewhere like Panama, Costa Rica, somewhere that we could have access to mats, where we could spend a week there, get people to come, all of our fans from our YouTube channel all over the world. I know that I've heard some of you have mentioned that you're from Australia, from the UK, from Canada, all over the United States. I got some in Hawaii, one from Russia, or is it Ukraine? No, Ukraine. We've got Poland. We've got people that watch our videos all over the place. Now, if this is something that would appeal to you, let us know. Something like this will take a long time to plan. We won't go so far as to do a package deal, because I know that everybody has their idea on what type of level accommodations they want. You might have some people that just want the cheapest accommodations, and some people that want 5-star accommodations. The spectrum of people that do jiu-jitsu is just so broad, right? That's the best thing about jiu-jitsu. We touch people from all places in the world, at all levels of income, and at all ages. And I can't think of a better way for a bunch of us to get together for a week of fun training, as well as sightseeing and all kinds of other activities than doing a summer camp, a summer jiu-jitsu, combat jiu-jitsu camp. That's what this experience in Guantanamo Bay has given me. If this is something that appeals to you, let me know. If this is something you're serious about, not something that you're just kind of playing around with, something you're serious about, then shoot me an email, combatjujitsu@gmail.com, or hit us on our Facebook page, Combat Jiu-Jitsu. What we'll do is we'll keep a running total of the people who are serious about this. So before you message us, go and look and see what accommodations are to, let's just go with Panama for now. And we'll see what that's like, because that's it's a relatively big city. At the same time, they've got a bunch of stuff that you can do as far as nature. It's a nice warm climate. And if you're a school, if you run a school in Panama, or let's say a second choice would be Costa Rica. If you run a school in Panama or Costa Rica and would like to host our week-long summer camp, let us know, because that's probably the most difficult part about setting up a summer camp like this, having mats or having a place to do it. If you'd like to have your school host it, that'd be awesome. We can work it out. So just go ahead and get a hold of us, and let's see if this is something that we can do. Because if we're looking at June or July of 2019, then I've got about a year to plan this. Hit me in the email or hit us on the Facebook page. Also, don't forget, a lot of the veterans that we met, they say, this stuff that Dave is teaching is awesome. I wish I could see it all the time. Well, the easiest and best way to see it is to jump on Dave's Patreon channel, right? And Rusty will put the link on the bottom below. Many of you have been with us from the very beginning, and we thank you for that. And also want to thank you for being a subscriber to our channel. And if you're not, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and hit the like button for the video as well, because it helps YouTube get the word out as far as our videos and gets the message out, so we can be, I guess we can provide you more content. So that's what I got for now. If there's anything else, go ahead and shoot a comment below, and I'll be sure to get with you. Anyway, happy training. Take care now. Bye-bye.